In this series of lectures, we'll be looking at managing Linux users and groups. First, we'll try to understand exactly how we use user and groups on a Linux system. And then we'll look at actually managing user accounts. We'll look at creating, modifying, and deleting them if necessary. And then finally, we'll look at actual groups and how we use those in conjunction with users. These two concepts are really important because later on when we look at file system security, they'll come into play pretty heavily in that area. So why don't we go ahead and dive right in. So the first topic we'll look at is user accounts and why we need them. Now, regardless whether you use a computer that you open up, turn on, and automatically the desktop appears for you, or you actually have to log in with a username and password, there is a user account on every single operating system. It does not matter if it's Linux, OS X, or Windows. Typically, there are multiple user accounts. In this case over here, I may have installed the system or purchased the system and created a initial account, and we'll just say it was the ed account. But even though I only created one account, and maybe I didn't even really create it myself, but the system walked me through this creation, there are other accounts. Typically in a Windows or even OS X environments, there's the admin account or administrator account. That's another account that you'll see on the system even if you're not aware that it's there. So even if I'm logging in automatically to this computer, right, I just open it up, turn it on, and immediately I get the desktop, there's still the ed account or an initial account that I'm using to gain access. Now typically what we're doing with user accounts is providing a mechanism for the user to authenticate. Remember, we don't want to take a chance if, for instance, we're sharing a computer with somebody else or in an open space, that somebody can just take our computer, turn it on, and get access. Even though that's convenient to do, it's not the safest thing to do. So we always want to, if possible, enable the user account and associate a password with that account, so that when we turn on the machine, it requires authentication. And on top of that, it also provides us access. Later on, as we'll see when we get into file and folder permissions, this account will be granted permissions to access files and folders based on the permissions which are applied to the account. Great. Let's move on to the next one here. Now, in a server environment, we may end up with an environment that has many users. And this could be on a desktop also. So here we have a situation where we have a server, and that server has lots of different information on it, lots of folders, files that need to get access, and we have many users that we need to provide access to. And it could be many different files and folders. There could be the sales folder here, and then we could have an HR folder here. Right, and we need to selectively choose the different users who will get access to those particular folders. So in this case, I guess I could say this user here will go into the sales, this one will go into sales, this guy over here will go into the HR, meaning when I say go into, what I really mean is have access to the files inside of there. This type of scenario where we're only user accounts to provide access to something really can get out of hand very quickly, because we have to regulate all of the permissions that are applied here, and there may be different permissions depending on an account. And what happens if a user leaves, right? That happens all the time. We're in a corporation, all of a sudden this user right here was a member of HR and they've moved on, right? And somebody else has come in. But wouldn't it be better if we could create this environment when new users come in, we can just place them into this thing and they immediately get access to the resources that they need? Well, that's exactly what happens with groups. So in this scenario here, same as before, so we have a group and we have the same folders that are over here. So we have the HR folder and the sales folder. So this hasn't changed. But what we've done is we've provided groups that correspond with that. So this is the HR group and this is the sales group. Now when a user joins our company, what I do is place them inside the group. They gain their access to the files and folders based on their group membership. If somebody new comes in, I don't have to give them direct access to this, right? I don't have to do that. Absolutely not. What I can do is take that user and place them in the HR group, which makes it so much easier on me as an administrator. So this concept of nesting users inside of groups and then giving groups permission is very, very common. What we'll look at next is actually going to the command line and the GUI and creating these user accounts.